Welcome to the PDX files. Each week we dive into the weird and the unexplained here in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. My name is Peej.
And I'm Mac.
And Mac, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about kind of a sad story in the Pacific Northwest, but one that needs to be sort of out there. I think there's a lot that hasn't been explained in this story of Brandi Hanowell. Obviously, there was a murder that happened, but what was the motive? Kind of what was behind it? Kind of what was the story that was going on there? I think the family deserves a chance to kind of get it out there. And even if we're not the ones to solve it, let's let the folks out there in the internet help us.
Right on. All right. So I have not seen this video, and so I'm looking forward to diving in.
Every day. I used to hear that when I was little, oh, I think about this person every day, and I always thought, no, you don't think about it every day, but I can honestly say that every single day since she's died, I've thought about her. My name is Kermit Hanowell, and my sister, Brandi Marie Hanowell, was murdered on January 7th, 1997.
So this is what Brandy wrote to Kerm and gave to him on his graduation. Kermit, I remember long ago when you were my only friend. When I needed anything, you were there to lend. When I was 4 and you were 6, as scary as that seems, we were both adopted. It was you on whom I leaned. She wrote so poetically.
Yeah, just starting out right there is like, I hope that people will. This is actually something that came from a TV station up north from us, trying to get some of the word out. And 1997 seems like so long ago, and it really is. But is there still the possibility of catching somebody who did this? Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and I've got questions about statutes of limitations, but I'll go into that a little bit later. So yeah, because 1997 was what, 30 plus, right? 30 years ago,
27,
27 years ago.
27 years. Yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll continue here. And it's kind of sad, and it is sad, and obviously we're talking about it seems that these kids, these brother and sister were actually not biological children of the couple here. Adopt
Correct.
this happens. All right.
Yeah, and you got to look at it. Every one of us who's a little over 40, I guess, can look back in 1997 and think about that year as probably pretty good. There wasn't really bad music yet. There's a little bit of bad music, but sort of think about that from the perspective of where you were
Yeah.
and how, even though there was so much technology at like that point that could sort of help with this case, it still
Huh?
remains a mystery for the motive, right? So,
All right. Okay. All right. We'll get back into it here.
This is very likely the route I probably took on that day. There has not been a time that I have driven down the 1500 block of G Street where I have not remembered in vivid multicolor what happened on that day. It just sits with you and you never forget it. It was a crisp January day. It was freezing out and the sky was cloudless. We got called because patrol was called to a welfare check for someone screaming in the 1500 block of G Street. When the patrol officers got there and they narrowed down which apartment it was and they made entry, they discovered Brandy and Lauren deceased in the apartment.
That night, there was a message on our answering machine that was from the police department, and they wanted to come and see us. At the door, they said, "Who belongs to Brandi Hanowell?" And I said, "I do." So they sat down and said there had been a crime in Bellingham and that there were 2 people that were dead. And one of them they thought was my daughter, Brandy. And I called Kerm.
She said that the Medford police had showed up and let her know that they found 2 bodies in Bellingham and they think it was Brandy. And I think I asked her to repeat it because I said, it doesn't sound right, because if what you're saying is true, then you're saying Brandy's dead.
Yeah, I mean, and again, there's more to this as we go on through it, but I think it kind of illustrates the sadness of what can happen in a true crime kind of situation. It's like a lot of people don't know about this kind of stuff and never will, right? So it's not their responsibility to know about it. But I think what we're trying to do here is kind of put out a little bit more information about this. And I think I mean I wish, but I mean I know there's like I don't know how many million, is it millions, is it thousands, is it hundreds of thousands of crimes that go unsolved uh for decades and decades. This just happens to be one that was in this particular area that we live in, the region that we live. But this is representative of probably a lot of other crimes that were very, very similar. And so it's more of just like, we're not unsolved mysteries over here, right? We're not like, doing anything like that. But
We're not
I
detective.
think, yeah, we're not real detectives, more ghost hunters, I guess. But I think that, it's an interesting story, and one that is, unfortunately representative of kind of society and kind of where we're going a little bit with some of this stuff.
And Bellingham, Washington is kind of a sleepy old town north of Seattle.
Yep.
It's a
Yeah, it's not a big town. Yeah, it's not a big town. It's a very small town. I used to actually deliver equipment up to that area. So I had a route when I was much younger, much younger, when my back didn't hurt all the time. But going up to going up to Olympia and Seattle, and then some of the suburbs around there, and it included at the end of the day. That's not a suburb, but Bellingham at the very end of their route, delivering steel. And yeah, it's a great town. Loved it. I loved it every time I went up there. But it is like one of those kind of things you kind of expect, and like I don't want to say like Twin Peaks kind of
Mm,
town, but it kind of felt like that a little bit when I was up there.
got it. All right. Well, let's continue here.
We never really heard any more about what happened.
The thing that I remember hearing was they thought that it might have been a drug deal that went bad.
It wasn't like a random invasion. Somebody they knew had let them in. I mean, it was so sudden. She was still
Right.
in her chair with her legs crossed, and so they were killed rapidly.
I forgot about the goat. That to me says definitely what she was saying is like they knew the person, they were comfortable with that. Somebody broke in, or not necessarily broke in, they just sort of walked in, I guess, because you're not going to be sitting there with your legs crossed if you're just like waiting on somebody. So that looked like somebody trying to get, and maybe they were involved in drugs and all that kind of stuff. But that looked like kind of like a takeover, or it's like eliminating a competitor kind of deal. Someone that they knew. That's pretty messed up.
Yeah, I think to your point, the position that Brandy was in on the couch would not be indicative of somebody that was in alarm.
It
Uh,
wasn't a defensive position.
it
Yeah.
wasn't defensive position, and even if it was in duress, again, the legs crossed in duress, it's kind of unlikely.
Yep.
Unless she was positioned in that, like postpartum, no, post mortem. Uh,
But I think they would have noticed that, like with the amount of blood that would have been caused by that, I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can fake that. And
hmm.
so I think the likelihood is that it was somebody that they knew. Now, was it somebody that like come in and like made threats and said, "Hey, you got to do this"? So there's some kind of negotiation. That's possible,
Yeah.
because that might sort of sort of indicate the comfort level, right? It's like, oh, this person's not going to kill me; they just
Right.
wanted like more money out of the drug deal. But it seems to me like whoever came in there had a goal, they had a mission, and they executed that, and it's really sad.
Or they had a means to end things that way, but maybe started out as, super amicable and then things turned south.
That's possible too. Yeah, I
Very
didn't even think
quick,
about that. Yeah,
very quickly. Just as a quick aside, I just did, of course, a Google search a few minutes ago. Roughly
nice.
800,000 violent crimes a year where no arrest, charge, or prosecution occurred remain unsolved.
Yeah,
800,000 a year here in the US.
that's so much. I mean,
That's crazy.
that's too much, at least if you look at it that way. And, we're all, I mean, I'm not an ACAB. I'm not one of those kind of folks. I definitely support our folks who are police officers, because, and even detectives is like, it's a kind of job that I wouldn't want to do. I mean, I would want to do actually, but I look at it, and not just on the face of TV shows, but you look at it, and you mentioned that number.
Yeah.
That is too much. I don't understand why. With the technology we have today, we should be able to nail these motherfuckers. But I mean, who knows?
I mean, yes, and especially in the context of unsolved mysteries, which you referenced earlier, if 800,000 violent crimes are remain unsolved a year here in the US, and only whatever 5 of those crimes are featured on unsolved mysteries,
Unsolved
like
mysteries.
how many of these crimes are so low on the priority that it doesn't even register another look? I don't know. It's kind of sad, and also like very sobering. It's like I definitely want almost make you want to look over your shoulder all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, and I think we would probably die in some like meaningless crime. It wouldn't be attached to drugs or whatever. It's just be like some rando like, oh, I got a hammer. I want to hit this guy. That'd probably be me, if it was
Yeah.
anything like that, right? So, they'd find that person pretty easily, and there'd be a whole thing. But to be a parent or a sibling or a family member who has to go through that, and they're like, we don't know,
Yeah.
we we got
Well,
nothing. Shit.
and especially 27 years going and nothing's been solved yet. All right, let's
That's
continue.
right.
Just because, we're sitting here stuck in this mire or whatever of not knowing what happened, who did it, but knowing that there is someone out there who does know all this stuff.
All these years later, the circumstances that led to Brandy's death remain a mystery. Bellingham police say there's still a detective assigned to it, say they're still working it. But to date, no arrest has been made, no suspect been made public.
Just don't forget your little sis, and don't forget to phone. I love you, Kerm. I gotta say, I wish I was going with. But we've got our lives, our own plans, and it's gonna be me you miss. Love, Brandy.
Yeah, I mean, that says it all right there for any of the families of the violent crimes who haven't been solved. And, I don't doubt that the Bellingham police are on top of it. I think they're probably doing everything that they can, and as well. And are they putting all the resources to it? Probably not. I mean, that's what they have to say. But I think that, you know, unfortunately, that's the reality. A lot of these kind of cases is that they just don't have the resources, so that there just wasn't enough evidence. And God, man, that's got to suck. It's got to suck. But hopefully, we'll put it out a little bit, and maybe somebody will be a better detective than we are. I mean, to me, it feels like it was probably somebody that they knew, or at least that she knew, that allowed that comfort to happen. So it's a little bit surprising to me that in a small town like that, that they weren't able to, kind of bring that together, if that makes any sense.
It does. It's baffling to me. I listen to a lot of true crime um, shows, podcasts, videos, and whatnot. So us talking about stuff like this is actually not outside of the realm of possibility for me. But it is baffling to me that, to your point, in a small town where the local police would probably have like a list of like 10 to 20 names that they would always like, it's probably one of these
Yep.
fuckers, I mean, and because they've been in trouble one way or another. And but anyway, but because of I have listened to quite a few true crime stories, the police could also muck it up in the initial crime scene, capturing the crime scene,
They've
documenting
done that a long time ago.
or not
Yeah.
documenting. And it happened a long time ago where, I mean, things can that kind of those kinds of misses can still happen today, but certainly, when it comes to a small town, to your point, where they don't have the right, maybe the correct infrastructure to be able to do proper crime scene investigations, even like, making sure that the crime scene is not tainted. And, maybe it's one detective or maybe not even any detective that lives in that jurisdiction. I mean, it's all of these things that are not equal spread, if you spread it out across the US, the infrastructure
Yep.
rather is not equal and you spread it across the US. So it would be interesting if the 800,000 violent crimes that happen a year here in the US, if a good chunk of that are in small towns like Bellingham,
Almost certainly. I would,
what
I,
I
I
mean?
would, I would agree. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I don't think it's like a situation where you have people who don't care. I mean, obviously they're still
Right.
talking about it after all these years, right? They looked at that cop who remembered every detail of that day,
Oh yeah.
up into the crime scene, right? And so, to me, that doesn't say somebody that is, trying to hide something. Certainly not that. But and again, in some of these towns, and we know so many of them around the area we live, and some of it is a little bit on the west side of the U.S. Like we don't have as much population, right? We have so many like distances between
Yep.
major cities, and so a place like Bellingham, even though it's not that far from a place like Seattle, and having been there, is like kind of the middle of nowhere. It hasn't changed. Again, we talked about that with the Martin family,
Yeah.
kind of thing. That never got solved, right? Clearly there was an issue of resources there, and I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that's a huge thing. But this case as well.
And and you said from the jump in terms of like the technology that would have existed back in 1997 already, how it's not too far of a leap from the technology today. I mean, of course, lots of leaps and bounds in certain things, but again, in terms of like, I don't know, in the world of CSI, 1997 I'm sorry, 1997 Bellingham would be, bound leaps and bounds from a technology standpoint than
Yeah,
whatever year that was when the Martin family disappeared, right? The
yeah,
technology that was
yeah.
available there. So it's almost inexcusable, to be honest, that
I can.
that some of the detractions to being able to have proper investigation, to be able to solve a case like this, sometimes it's boiled down to what the infrastructure is in that particular town or police jurisdiction.
Agreed. And so I kind of gave the news channel there, or whatever channel that is up there in
I
Seattle. Yeah,
wrote
we got it in the link. I got to give him credit for bringing it up because it's not something that's easy to
Thing five.
do,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
props to them, and
Yeah.
hopefully the family can find justice in some way.
Yeah. I truly hope that it doesn't end up being like, for that lieutenant, policewoman, well, I can't remember, Claudia something, that it
Yeah.
doesn't end up being for her like it was for that investigator in the Martin family disappearance.
Oh,
He died
yeah.
without the mystery being solved.
That kind of closure, I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine. That's what it makes it one of the most difficult jobs in the entire world, is to is to do that kind of thing and then not be able to solve it. You know, you see all these movies like, oh, I solved it. They solved the case. Man, that shit doesn't happen all the time. And
No.
even when you do, it's kind of fucked up when you do solve it because it's probably so simple. It's like, oh shit, this is like really fucked up. So you gotta give those folks in blue credit, and I'm all
Yeah.
for it.
And like you said, I mean, hopefully, in our little way, and credit to you for finding this, but in our little way, hopefully we're helping to provide visibility to this case. And, and if somebody, for some reason does have the information, sees the video and is able to take some action on it, I think that would be a good thing. All right. Well, if you enjoyed this content,
Yeah, and I know I looked at this video. There's a lot of views on it. So, oh, what just happened
I
there?
don't know what happened there.
Said low bandwidth. Anyway, go ahead.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, please give it a like and share it across your socials to help get the word out about our show. If you hadn't already done so, please subscribe. And on YouTube, click that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on any new uploads. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.